Yeah, we can.
Excellent. All right. Who has a bid or solicitation or proposal, something that's due at 5 today, or who's in a major rush?
I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have a bid or solicitation proposal to work on, or a question?
I have a few quick questions.
Okay.
You want to click on the link?
Okay.
It says the contractor shall, what was it? The contractor shall provide a copy of the Maryland Department of Agriculture, Technical, and Fertilizer application certificate for the personnel who may be servicing the contract. Do you need to have that information when you turn the bid or after?
Usually they require it if you win it.
I don't have it now, but I was thinking about subcontracting it.
Yeah. So if you find a subcontractor that has it, you're good.
But what do I put in the bid? Do I write down whether subcontract that personnel, or how do I say it?
I don't think you have to submit it with the bid. They don't normally require this kind of stuff with the proposal itself.
Oh.
They usually don't require it until after it's awarded.
Okay. All right, and then we go to the other link that I sent you. I do apologize. I don't have a snipping tool. Let me go to page 87. Oh, right there. Yeah, what is that? Like, what is that? I'm not sure what they're asking. It says bench area, quantity 12, bulletin board 8, drinking fountain. I'm not sure what they're referring to. And I tried to look in the scope of work and I couldn't find it.
Looks like they're saying these are the number of bulletin boards and beach areas, drinking fountains that are on the property that you have to mow around.
So why would they be asking for a price? To mow around it?
I guess. I'd have to read the whole statement of work.
I wonder if it's to calculate like a square footage maybe or something.
Right.
Track from an overall like that's
gate, attendance site, dump station, camping unit.
Yeah, I'd have to review the statement of work to see if I knew exactly what it was, but if I had to guess, they're telling you those are the obstacles that you have to mow around.
I know something.
Okay.
It'd be a good question. If you can't figure it out in the statement of work, it'd be a good question to ask the purchasing agent.
Okay. Alrighty.
Looks like it's a 5-year contract. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else got a question, bid, solicitation, proposal?
I just sent you that because it was an RFI.
Okay.
And I wanted to find out if there was any specific format in order to respond to the RFI portion. Because I can definitely deliver on that contract.
You have the solicitation number?
It's they haven't put it out yet. They're just literally, I didn't know they would put it out out. Yeah.
You have the RFI number?
I'll look for it. You can move on and I'll look.
Okay, well, was this something you found in FBO, or was this an email that was sent to you directly?
No, they sent it to me directly.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if RFIs had their own number. I thought it was like, hey, this is a survey, you know, just, I don't know if I like respond back and be like, yes, I can do it or what, you know?
Yeah, RFIs, a lot of times are sources sought, requests for information. They're put in, well, give me a second. I got a lot of background noise.
This is a real one.
All right, an RFI or sources sought are often posted in FBO, and they're, you know, purchasing agents may not know enough about what it is they're buying. So they're going to ask for a professional opinion, a request for information, or a sources sought to find people that can give them information and maybe educate them on what it is that they're buying. So I get a lot of people that say, is it worth taking the time to submit an RFI? Yeah, usually, because all they ask when there is an RFI is they want you to submit either a 1-page or a 5-page description of blah, 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 or they just want you to submit their cap statement, letting them know that you're interested. There's usually not a whole lot of work involved in an RFI as far as responding to it. And a lot of times that RFI will turn into, or that sources sought will turn into an opportunity eventually. And you've already built rapport with that purchasing agent because you're the one that responded to them and educated them.
Okay, so somewhere in all of that, or in FBO, there's going to be directions on the way that they expect a response. So I don't like just respond and be like, heck yeah, I got this or anything, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they usually say if you are an interested vendor or specific response instructions. Here it is, right here. Please submit your RFI responses in accordance to the following.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No more than 7 pages, including the name, email address, phone number, representatives of the company. Government will not review information or attachments that exceeds the 7-page limit. Submit your response via email. Mark your response proprietary information if the information is considered business sensitive. Marketing materials are not allowed as part of the RFI. They want to know your socioeconomic status, your size standard, point of contact information. I want you to put that next code on there, indicate whether your company is a small business, one with minority hubs on 8A, etc. There's your scope of work. That's the title of the project. That's the background, delivery schedule. Responding to this RFI, please accept the following questions. They want you to answer these questions as well. And that's it. Short, sweet, to the point.
So when it's asking how like you plan to do the work and everything, like, so since I'm 100% just, you know, it's me and my company, and then so I'm going, it's like joint venture, like, you know, so if I'm indicating that it's going to be some type of joint venture or something like that,
right?
I would need to disclose, like, what if they're like a veteran-owned business, but they're not like certified or whatever, but do I tell them that part or no?
If you're going to subcontract, if you're going to do it, joint ventures are a risky program because you have to go into a legal agreement with another entity. And unless you have an attorney involved to look over the documentation, you know, you could be getting, you could be biting off more than you want to chew. I suggest instead of doing a joint venture, you sub out. You hire the guys, you sub them out, so you're in control. And, you know, go that route instead of a joint venture or a teaming agreement. But if you are going to go joint venture or teaming agreement, make sure you have an attorney review the documents before you sign them.
Okay, I just wanted to, is there like a, I guess, a list of the actual very specific definitions of how they view each of those different, I guess whatever that word is?
Not really. I mean, every purchasing agent has their own idea of how the rules and laws work and what stuff's called. And so it's like some of them call the reps and certs. Some of them still call it ORCA. Some of them call it representation certification. Some call it FAR and DFAR provisions. Some of them call it federal acquisition regulations. It's all the same document, but they got 8 different names for it, depending on how the purchasing agent, you know, determines or views the way the government works.
Okay. And since the VA itself was actually, deficient in some of their allocations for women-owned small business, like in fiscal year like 2016, I mean, do you think that increases my odds of them being like, hey, you're a woman, yeah, get on this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, any set-asides that you carry increase your odds, because even if it's not set aside for a woman or minority or a veteran, if it's just set aside for a small business and they hire you as a woman or minority or veteran, they can still write that off. They can still claim it.
Okay, but they're going to be well aware that they missed their mark last year for women, right? So I don't have to be like, hey, do anything special. They're going to know I'm a woman, and it'll.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're well aware. Trust me. That's why that one contract some of you guys I've showed you. Actually, I got it right here. I can almost guarantee you. That's why this happened. This isn't a standard practice to give a $1 billion contract to a $1 million company. That wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. It's too risky. They would never have given a contract that's bigger than the annual revenues last year. But these days, they're throwing contracts at people that are just mind-boggling. And it's probably because he was a service-disabled veteran, small business, and they weren't close to hitting their criteria. So they said, hey, let's give this guy one for $1 billion, and then we're done.
Wow. Nice.
Any other questions? Anybody else got a question? Oh, I got everybody muted. There we go. Sorry about that.
Hey, John, two questions.
Ladies first.
Hi, John.
Yes.
Am I the lady, or is that someone previous?
You're the lady.
Okay, John. How are you? Excellent news. My mouth was actually, my chin was on my chest for a second there when I saw that $1 billion contract. Anyway, I'm bidding on a little small contract. I hesitate to share the numbers, but what I want to know is how would I write myself in if I'm the prime contractor and I've got a subcontractor who's doing all of the work? How do I write myself in as a, let's see, what would I call it? The manager of the project, the project manager?
You're going to you're going to be the prime contractor, and you're going to sub out to them as the subcontractor. Now, unless they specify in the instructions to offer that you need to disclose who your subs are, you don't have to tell them anything.
Okay.
But if they specify in the instructions to offer that they want you to list who your subs are and their DUNS number and their cage code, most likely that contract's going to be over $650,000, in which case they're going to require you to sub out 23% of it. They're not asking you to. It's mandatory.
Gotcha.
You have to sub it out.
Okay, so the question really then is how do I go into the options and add my portion? Because it's an extremely small contract, but nonetheless I do want to because I'm sponsoring it. I do want to be paid for my time.
Sure.
So how do I go about doing that?
I'm not sure what you mean. It's a contract that you're bidding on?
Okay, so yes, I'm bidding on a contract, and primarily it's in square footage. It's to seal to do some seal coating for a parking lot, and so I'm not sure how to.
Well, when you win it,
for the manager,
when you win it and you invoice it, you're the one in charge. You're going to hire whoever to do it, and you're going to invoice the government to get paid, and the government's going to pay you, and then you're responsible for paying your subs.
Gotcha. Okay. So I don't necessarily have to give them what they bid on. I'm trying to come in as the lowest bidder and at the same time allow for some extra.
Sure. Yeah, you got to make some money. Just don't do this for the fun of it.
Absolutely. So you're
not
saying,
that fun.
So John, I'm still I'm quite new at this, so I'm still not understanding fully. So if in fact I'm bidding at let's see, the average range is anywhere from 14 to 24 cents per square foot, and the subcontractor says they're charging 21 cents. What do I do with that? If I'm trying to come in as the lowest bidder and at the same time add on for the margin of profit.
I'd shop around and find a couple more subs, because if that's the range and they're at the high end of the range, they're not giving you any room to make money. There's no wiggle room.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're gonna sub it out, I would have at least 3 or 4 different subs that can do the work that give you a quote. That way, if one guy falls through, you got 3 more guys to fall back on.
Okay, appreciate that.
No problem. Any other questions?
Now, John, real quick. So obviously, I got the part that you don't need to disclose the subcontractor unless it states. So my next question is, in regards to you going out of your category or NAIC, to go for a contract that is not in your NAIC, does that require you to plug that number into SAM, the number you're going for into SAM, or
no?
Do you understand what
I know exactly what you're saying. Here's the thing. You don't have to have a NAICS code or NAICS code, however you want to pronounce it. NIACS, it's pronounced all kinds of different ways. You don't have to have that code listed in your SAM or in your FBO to bid on or be awarded or do any government work. If anyone ever has a purchasing agent that tells you different, don't argue with them. Tell them you'll add it. Email me. Send me the contact information to the purchasing agent, and I'll tell them they're wrong, because they are. And here's why. This article is on my LinkedIn. You can pull it up there. If you want, just email me, and I'll send you the copy. I wrote this article specifically because one of my clients won a contract, and one of his competitors did a bid protest. They sent a bid protest to the GAO saying my client shouldn't have won the contract because they didn't have that NAICS code listed in their SAM or their FBO. This is the actual bid protest letter from the Government Accountability Office, straight up. This is the actual letter with the decision, and the decision was denied. You do not have to have a NAICS code listed in your SAM or your FBO to bid on a contract, because if you did, every time a purchasing agent uses the wrong code, you would have to add it, and eventually you'd have a bunch of wrong codes with a bunch of right codes, and then you got a big mess. That makes sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Now, in regards to you still going out for something totally different out of your NAC code, do you have to change your capability letter?
I mean, yes and no. It's same theory. You don't know, but if a purchasing agent, you can create cap statements that are templates that you can use for future purposes down the road. Changing your primary NAICS code on your cap statement takes 2 seconds, and then save it.
Not that. I'm just talking about the statement itself. Yeah,
to some extent. I mean, the more specific the cap statement is to the opportunity, the more apt they are to hire you. So yeah, you could modify your cap statement for specific types of business and then save it. And you've created multiple cap statements you can use in the future for those different arenas.
Okay.
All right.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Anybody else got a question?
Oh, John. Yes, I had a couple of questions. This is Janine.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I have a question. We were looking at a bid, and we were working on it. We were not able to get the bonding because of the difference in geographic area. It was basically across the country. It was the perfect job for us,
right,
as far as everything else. But it was, it was in California, and we're located in New England. So anyway, we were not able to acquire the bid bond that we would have needed. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, what is the story about a pro bono office? Is that something that we should have considered, or maybe not for this? We're just beginning, really. So we're looking at smaller jobs, so probably not for this job. But is that something, and how does that work? What do you do about your SAM address and all of that if you're using a pro bono office?
Well, in many cases, you don't have to have an office in the service area unless the contract's what's called a brick and mortar. Brick and mortar means you have to have a physical location in the service area or you can't bid on it.
Okay.
And if it's brick and mortar, a lot of times you can only sub out a certain percentage of it. They want you to do a percentage of it in-house.
Okay.
If it's not brick and mortar, though, yeah, if it's not brick and mortar, in most cases you can do it from anywhere. You can operate, manage it from your location and hire a subcontractor that's local to do it.
Right. Well, that's what our intention was, but the bonding company didn't look favorably upon that because of the distance, and we were all set. We were, we were all set to be there. Yeah.
There's thousands of bonding companies out there. When I was a kid, I started a janitorial company because the restaurant that I bust tables at said, "Hey, if you clean our restaurant at night, we'll give you $800 a week." And I was a kid, and I was like, "$800 a week? Hell yeah!" And then I wound up picking up the three other Shell's restaurants. So I basically started a janitorial service by accident. And in order to pick up the other restaurants, I had to get bonding. But I was 17 years old. No one would bond a 17-year-old. But I finally talked to a guy that he said, "Yeah, I can bond you, man. It's no big deal. Just don't steal. Don't validate the bond, and you're fine." I got $1 million bond for $232.
So, is that going by that scenario? We should be able to get bonded prior to, or get a bonding capability prior to actually being awarded a job or getting a job?
Yeah, most contracts don't require you to have the bonding up front. They allow you to get it after the contract's been awarded. But that could be an issue if you can't get it. Unless it's a bid bond.
The bid bond.
Yeah, bid bonds are required up front. You have to submit your bid bond with your bid.
Yeah.
Anybody who's confused about bonds, confused about bonds, let me know. I've got a signature with bonding information on it, what the difference between the bonds are, and a whole list of bonding agencies.
Okay. Yeah.
So anybody that wants that, just send me an email and ask me to send you the bid bond email or the bond email, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, good. I have another question. That bid actually, it went out last Friday morning, and then was accepted by Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question. The award was for less than the lowest, so it was a $250,000 to $500,000.
Right.
And so the bid came in at under the $250,000.
Okay.
And they would accept. They would take only the lowest bid, but we were trying to keep it as close to $250,000 as possible, thinking that it would have to be between that range, but they accepted a company that was below that range. Is that I mean, should we have considered that? Not that this would have worked for us anyway, but it's just a learning curve here for me.
Yeah.
So is that legitimate, and is that something that we should take into consideration? If we can go below and still make some money, that we could consider that?
I would, when it comes to figuring out profit margins and all that, I'd take my cost, figure out my absolute cost, maybe add 5% on top of that as a cushion in case whatever happens, and then add your 15 to 20, 25% on top of that. And just submit it. I mean, you're going to find situations where the awardee was half of what they guesstimated. You're going to find situations where the awardee was 3 times as much as the amount they had anticipated. If you could imagine it, I've seen it. I worked with a gentleman just a month ago, put in a bid, and the purchasing agent came back and asked him if he wanted to redact it. And he said no. And she's like, "Are you sure? Because I don't think you understood the scope of work. You're 1/3 of what everybody else is bidding. Everybody else was at 100,000. He's at 40. And the purchasing agent said, "There's got to be something wrong here. You must have missed something. So you need to go back through this and redo it and make sure you're on the money. Make sure you got the right numbers." And
Yeah.
and he did, and he went back and he rechecked it. He had me check it. He had his attorney check it, and he came back again. He said, "No, I can do this at 20,000 and still make money on it and get some past performance and earn your trust. I want to do it." So she awarded it to him, and he did the job. It only took him a week to do the job. He made like $9,000 on it. You know, the other guys were just over quoting it. Whether they were, there's some groups out there of people that will bid in a group fashion, and they all bid high. You know, and like kind of take turns winning contracts that way, and then they make huge profits. But you don't want to gouge the government. I mean, if the government figures it out and knows that you're gouging them, they can come down on you with a hammer.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just thinking of it the other way. I thought that we would have to be within the parameters of the bid.
No,
and
no,
so,
you don't have to anything. Nothing's set in stone all the time.
Yeah, I thought they would look at that as, you know, this is like not have in that situation of the scenario you mentioned, like not take it. This procurement officer took it a step further and said, "Look, are you really sure this is correct?" I would have thought that they'd have looked at that and said, "Nah, that's way off."
I've seen it.
You know,
I've seen them do that. I've seen them. That's what I'm saying. Nothing's ever set in stone all the time, because I've seen where purchasing agents said, "We didn't hire you because your price was too low. We assumed you didn't understand the solicitation, or you were going to cut corners and do a bad job." And I've seen it where I've seen it where they've hired the highest bidder. Most small business set-asides, it'll say in the instructions to offer that the technical proposal is the most important factor. That it's not the prices last on small business set-aside. So you'll see frequently when it's not about price, it's about solution.
It's your president. That's a crime.
This one was about price, but they had said they would, you know, we're going to take the lowest price. Is what it was.
Lowest price, technically acceptable is usually, but if it's a small business set-aside, it's usually about the solution, not about the price.
Yeah.
I've seen where the government told people that they wouldn't hire them unless they charged more. I've seen the government. One of my clients, she invoiced them for $42,000, and they said, "No, we owe you $62," and she said, "No, you only owe me $42," and they were like, "No, we owe you $62. That's how much you need to invoice it, or we're not going to pay you." So they forced her to take more money. She called me up freaking out. "What should I do?" I'm like, I mean, do what they tell you to do, you know?
Yeah, right. That seems like, you know, I don't know why they would do it that way, but
bank error in your favor. You know, I don't know. I've seen stranger things. I've seen the government pay one guy $100 and buy the same thing from another guy for $1,000 at a higher quantity. Yeah. Which you would think would make sense if the bigger the quantity, the lower the price. But I've seen one agency buy 10 of them at $100 a piece and buy 1,000 of them at $800 a piece. It doesn't make any difference. You know, it's all in the eyes of the beer holder. It's what the purchasing agent perceives to be fact, and that's fact.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Never ever cheat. Never ever lie. Yeah. But if the government tells you to do something and you explain to them that it's wrong and they insist, you got to get paid.
Yeah.
You know.
You gotta. Right. Exactly.
Don't overcharge them. 15, 20, 25% markups, plenty to make money on it. As long as you got your costs covered and a little extra to cover any hiccups, and as long as you've gotten 3 or 4 quotes from different suppliers, you got suppliers to fall back on in case one falls through. You shouldn't run into any issues.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Good.
You know, technically speaking, that movie War Dogs, the only reason why they got in trouble is because they didn't pay the guy who modified the packaging. Had they paid him instead of getting greedy, he wouldn't have never turned them in, and they probably wouldn't have never gotten caught. Again, I'm not saying cheat or lie to the government ever, but I'm saying if you follow the rules and do the right thing every day, you never have to worry about your pay.
Yeah, right. That's right.
All right.
Okay. All right, good. Yes, thank you.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Anybody else got a bid, solicitation, proposal, or question?
And I wanted to know if with all of this stuff coming down from, you know, FEMA and everything, is there a way that you know of that to monitor like the state and local contracts as well, like that are all kind of interconnected? Because I know a lot of this is trickling up or down or whichever it goes, right?
Unfortunately, right now, the only thing you can do is register with the state. Each state has their own database. Each county, each city, each local municipality has their own database for procurement. And unfortunately, you have to register in each one and monitor each one. A lot of them, you can set up searches that are automatic, so at least you don't have to go out and look every day. You can just check your email. Eventually, our AFPDS will track subnet. And eventually they're going to have it start tracking state certifications, which is going to take years to get that in place and make it work properly. So it's not a simple short-term solution, but that's the goal eventually, is to have AFPDS track everything.
Okay, awesome. And then I had a suggestion, or maybe this is something I can help you with offline. You know how you have like all of these like resources and all that? I could help you set up like a Google Drive to where we can categorize everything, and that way you're not having to email people. But like if, you know, you're doing a training or whatever, you can just like share like your folders with people, like, right, you know, and then all the resources in there. If you'd like me to help you with that.
Yeah, it's something to consider. We talked about it before, but then they're worried about putting everything in one place where our competitors can just go in and download everything and be done with it in one quick swoop.
Oh, you'd have to still give the people access, but they would just say, for example, you know, someone was wanting information on, like you said, the bondsman, you know, and so then it would just be like, you know, you send them a link, or, you know, that way you kind of, but whatever. It's just something I noticed.
No, I know what you mean. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Anybody else got a bid, solicitation, proposal to work on?
Okay, if no one has any other questions, I do have a couple. In regard to the looking into the mentor protege program, do you know anything about that? As far as how that works, as far as working with another company, we are obviously, we're on the protege end of it. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if you knew anything about that you could give me any pointers on that, or
I do.
Information.
I've heard more not so positive stories than I have heard positive stories. And here's the thing: Mentor Protege program it's free. So how much time is someone going to invest for free into making you be successful, when all they get out of it is the accomplishment of helping someone? I mean, yeah, there's good people out there that'll help you. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, how much does the average guy gonna give to someone that's not paying them? You know, I can give you a prime example. I had a gentleman call me about 6 months ago, and he said, "John Wayne, thank God I found your videos." He said, "I almost didn't. I found one of your videos one day that had your daughter's picture on it, and I wasn't going to click on it because I didn't think it was contracts related. I thought it was a recipe." He said, "I almost didn't click on it, but something told me to click on it, and I did, and I found you, and I'm so glad I did, because I've spent the last 3 years going in circles between the Mentor Protege program, between the SBA and the PTAC and the SCORE program he was working with for 3 years." And this is not my quote. This is one of my clients that told me. He says, "For 3 years, I've been wasting my time going in circles with these guys. And for the most part, all I ever get out of them is general answers. They don't ever give a specific answer. I don't know if they're not allowed to, but he says they just kind of beat around the bush. I learned more from watching one of your 1 hour videos. I learned more in 1 hour watching your video than I have in the 3 years that I've spent driving back and forth almost daily to the PTAC or to the SBA or to meet my mentor protege or to the FedEx to do this or that. Because I literally learned more from one of your videos in an hour than I have in 3 years dealing with all this government bureaucracy. Thank you, John Wayne. And that was one of the, that was one of the worst stories I've heard. I've heard people say that their mentor protege program was pretty good, or they lucked out and got a really kind, caring person that was willing to help and bend over backwards.
Yeah. Well, I thought that it might work to have, so if you were working with a mentor program that was a small business but didn't have the service disabled or the women's or whatever the set aside is, didn't have that capability, then it couldn't it be a win-win? That's what I thought you were
could be, but
kind of designed for.
Most mentor protege programs are not going to allow people in that are not already in the 8A and successful. In which case, they're probably not a small business anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem. Any other questions? Anybody else got a question? Bid, solicitation, proposal? Good recipe for a buttermilk pie? No? All right, guys. Well, if there's no other questions, I'll shut her down for today. I'll be back on here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, every day, 1 and 4. I'm here for you guys. I want you to be successful. So bring your questions, bring your proposals, solicitations, procedures. I'll do my best to answer your questions. If I don't know the answer, I don't always do. I'll find it.
Well, thank you so much.
John.
You got it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you tomorrow, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thanks, sir.